Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching The Political Vigilante, bringing the truth up from deep below Wayne Manor in the outskirts of Gotham City. Well, one of the things that I've talked about on this show is electoral politics seems like almost a dead end. I'm still register to vote, get involved in local stuff, but it's really going to take kind of creative action to take out the ruling class, specifically the banks. And you know what's happening in the state of New Mexico? They filed a lawsuit against the banks for rigging the markets. It really seems like maybe a whistleblower came forward, which again is something I've said. Like, if you're working within these corrupt systems, man, I know it's not easy. And I can't begin to just go, yeah, just come forward. It's great. Look at Julian Assange. They put him in jail. It's nothing. It's no big deal. Like, I know you're putting a lot on the line. Any whistleblower, I know you're putting a lot on the line. And I'm not saying that's an easy choice. And if you don't want to make that choice, I get it. But when whistleblowers come forward, change happens. State Attorney General files suit charging Wall Street mega banks with multi-year bid rigging and price fixing, conspiracy and credit default swaps market. I kind of understand the credit default swaps market, but whether you are very knowledgeable in this field or not, the reality is, and you're going to see some of the same old gang of banks, you're going to see some familiar friends, they're rigging the markets, man. That's why I love it when people are like, oh, Bitcoin's manipulated. Oh, right. And all these markets with all this regulation, they get manipulated all the time. And one of the reasons this is easily manipulated, they found sort of a loophole or a gray area, how these credit default swaps don't get that highly monitored. But I mean, this will be pretty much fixed because Obama, after the 2008 crash, remember when Obama and Biden put all that sweeping bank regulation in there to make sure this never happens again? Oh, wait, they didn't. They didn't. Like they said the Adam McKay said at the end of The Big Short. He made that point at the end of The Big Short. Nothing. Obama did nothing. Dodd-Frank, nothing. It's a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. They've done nothing, and it's going to happen again. But you got to get creative. Find ways to sue them. Stick it to them however they can. Find their soft spots. Everybody has an Achilles. Every big corporation, they have an Achilles heel. Last week, the New Mexico Attorney General's office filed a breathtaking 128-page antitrust lawsuit in federal court in New Mexico on behalf of the state's $31 billion investment fund, the New Mexico State Investment Council. Now, why this is significant too, I've been talking about this for a while, and thank you to many of you submitting articles. Lauren D'Alessandro, she's one of the people that has submitted a lot of articles with regard to this specific topic, but I've talked about all of the bubbles and all the corruption. One of the things we've talked about on this show in past videos is how local municipalities' retirement funds and investment funds. So you take a city or a state like the state of New Mexico, they've got all these state workers and you're paid a pension and they put it in an investment fund. Well, what's happened is then they've made these mistakes because these greedy banks and hedge funds and investment companies come in and say, oh, we can double your money. So they take, and I'm just picking round numbers here, I don't know this for a fact, but let's say they take whatever, it's $100 million worth of employees' retirement funds. And they say, oh, we're gonna invest it wisely. We're just shrewd Wall Street investors. We're so much smart. And they gamble it, and then the $100 million is worth 18 million or whatever. And you've worked your life for the state of New Mexico or the city of Chicago or whatever, and the money's gone because a bunch of banks stole it. And they rigged the system in their favor. And when they do that, none of these suits go to jail. You smoke weed, especially if you're a black person who smokes a plant, you're going to jail. You're a Wall Street guy that just bankrupts people and steals people's retirement and destroys families and all the collateral damage from financial collapse that happens, divorce, suicide, drug addiction, alcoholism, domestic violence, all of those things. They're not held accountable at all. So I just want to point out why this is significant, because do you work for a city? Do you work for a state? Well, your city or state has a big municipal fund. It has a big pension fund. Where is that money going? And if banks have been gambling and stealing your money that you've worked hard for, file a lawsuit. The lawsuit alleges, backed by striking evidence, that the following banks have engaged in a 16-year conspiracy of bid rigging and price fixing in the credit default CDS market. This list of names is going to be really shocking. Bank of America? No way. They're so great that they got America in the title. Is it America's number one? We're number one at Wall Street getting government bailouts. When I hear people, oh, don't let socialism. We've got socialism. Wall Street gets socialism. They get government bailouts whenever they have a problem. They steal your tax money. They let 6 million foreclosures happen. Remember when Obama gave them $1 trillion and still stood by and let 6 million foreclosures happen? My home being one of them, on top of the $700 billion that George Bush gave them. So you think your party's different? Both parties are corrupt and evil. Both parties have stuck it to the working people. And both parties willfully bend over and let Wall Street do whatever they want. And who suffers? You do. The politicians don't, because people keep voting for the lesser of two evils. When you vote third party, you are taking the power out of the duopoly. You are taking the power away from Wall Street, who continues to do stuff like this. Merrill Lynch, Barclays, BNB, Citigroup. No way, Citigroup? I thought Citigroup was like a non-for-profit. I thought they were like they're like the organic farmers of Wall Street. No, Citigroup. Oh, Deutsche Bank. Oh, Deutsche Bank owns part of One West Bank. One West Bank was the bank that was owned by Steve Mnuchin that bought up a bunch of IndyMac banks. My mortgage was an IndyMac mortgage. It was bought by One West Bank that was owned by Deutsche Bank. Steve Mnuchin, there was plenty of evidence for the Attorney General of the state of California to put Steve Mnuchin behind bars. Who's the Attorney General then? Oh, Kamala Harris. Wacky coincidence. Steve Mnuchin donated to her Attorney General campaign and then again to her senatorial campaign. And when she won Senate, she voted to make him Secretary of Treasury under Trump. It's all wacky coincidence. I'm a nutbag. What do I know? Deutsche Bank, Goldman Sachs. Our boys Goldie's in the group. Goldman Sachs has had someone in every presidential cabinet since Reagan. Gee, I wonder why they thought they could get away with this for 4 decades. Because they're never held accountable. JPMorgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, and RBS. Same cast of characters being held accountable. The name of the outside law firm that is representing the plaintiff, the New Mexico State Investment Council, this is where it gets interesting. That law firm is Kirby McInerney, which has a history of representing whistleblowers in frauds committed by Wall Street miscreants. The law firm's name jumped out to us because the extremely intimate and comprehensive details of how this alleged fraud was conducted, as outlined in the lawsuit, sounds uncannily like the work of an insider who is now blowing the whistle. So the state that filed the lawsuit is the outside law firm they're getting help with has represented whistleblowers in the past. And this 128-page, as they put it, breathtakingly document has intricate knowledge of these crimes that only an insider could provide. So more than likely, another whistleblower came forward. Come forward, whistleblowers, if you can. Reach out to law firms like this that have represented whistleblowers in the past. That's what you do. Because they know how to protect you. They know how to legally help you and keep you safe and then get justice done. Since 2005, the Wall Street banks that comprise the major dealers of the credit default swaps have been engaged in a conspiracy to manipulate the CDS final auction price. What? Wall Street banks manipulating stock prices? I'm bewildered. I can't even. Next thing you're going to tell me there's people in Congress of both parties that take lobby money, and that's why Americans don't get the things they want. That's just crazy talk. That's just crazy talk. The CDS auction process slips through this patchwork of regulatory oversight. This is how you see where the banks knew all this. There's no way the banks didn't know they slipped through the cracks of regulation. There's no way. The result is a regulatory failure that overlooks the CDC auctions and the anti-competitive conduct that takes place within them. Some shifty, greedy, soulless weasel at one or more of these banks went, hey, I know a way we can, and they can't regulate it. And they said this over some high-priced lunch in Manhattan. And now people in New Mexico might lose their pensions. Let's hope this lawsuit is successful. The mega banks on Wall Street have been operating for years like an organized crime cartel. In fact, in some of their past antitrust activities, their traders even called themselves the cartel and the mafia in online chat forums. And like drug cartels and mafias and crime families, they buy politicians, they buy judges in both parties. That's why it's all bought and paid for. I got more respect for a drug cartel than these maggots. Because at least the drug cartels are up front. Yeah, we sell drugs and we murder people and we buy off politicians and judges. Okay, I know you're evil. I know you're the bad guy. Thank you for letting me know. It's like a rattlesnake. Rattlesnakes don't go, you can pet me, I'm cuddly. They're a rattlesnake. They look evil and mean. They're scary as shit. They make that evil hissing sound. They got forked tongues. They're evil. But the banks, they are, oh, we're here to help America and we're going to help you invest. And you go into all their banking offices and all these great pictures and advertisements of these helping regular American families get ahead and small business owners. No, they're not. No, they're not. Have you gotten a loan from one of these banks and it helped your business? Sure, but they made interest off of it. And if they could make more money bankrupting you and kicking your family out in the street, they would, and they have. They did in the last housing crisis, and they're going to do it again during this one. Unfortunately, no amount of felony charges wrapped with a bow in deferred prosecution agreements by the U.S. Department of Justice has slowed these serial crimes on Wall Street. I'm glad they're filing the lawsuit. I hope they get some money. But it is doubtful that any of these craven criminals are going to see the inside of a jail. There's people in prison for smoking a plant. But these Wall Street parasites who have stolen and robbed Americans, red state Americans, blue state Americans, independent Americans, libertarians, Greens, you name it. Every American of every economic, of every ethnicity, of every socioeconomic background, for the most part, especially if you're poor and working class, you've been stuck to harder. But all Americans of all different types have been screwed over by these Wall Street banks. And the best we can do is a lawsuit. Well, I hope this lawsuit is successful. But there needs to be criminal charges. And you can't do that when every 4 to 8 years we have this corrupt bank payroll jackass. I mean, Trump was on the payroll of the banks. Biden's on the payroll of the banks. Obama was, Bush was, the Clintons were. I mean, Janet Yellen, the first ever female Secretary of the Treasury, she got 1.7 in speaking fees to all the banks on this list. All these names, these guys, most of these banks paid Janet Yellen to speak. Were they paying that because Janet Yellen had all this information about the Federal Reserve and the banking system that they weren't aware of? No, they were paying for influence. That's what the mob does. They donate to somebody's campaign and say, hey, make sure we get this. And, hey, I got a contracting business. Make sure my cousin gets the contract on the new freeway. You know what I mean? They're doing the same thing. They're just as corrupt. It's like when Trump's Secretary of State used to be in charge of ExxonMobil. Rex Tillerson, I think his name was. So corrupt. Joe Biden's Secretary of Defense, first black man Secretary of Defense. Yay, diversity. He was on Raytheon's board of directors. See how it doesn't matter the industry. It's all the same. You can't get any fair play with these two corrupt parties. You just can't. So we're going to keep talking about this. Hopefully this lawsuit wins. Hopefully they got to pay something. And lawsuits do affect them. I mean, hurting these big corporations' bottom line is effective, but these people need to be in jail. Just like the pharmaceutical companies for the opioid epidemic. They paid, like Purdue Pharmaceutical paid a $500 million fine. Okay, that was good. They've ruined lives. They've murdered people. They've destroyed community. There's communities in America that are just wiped out because of this opioid epidemic. It's unbelievable. So they got to be held accountable. I mean, hats off to this law firm, and I hope there's some whistleblowers. So if you're a whistleblower, contact a law firm that's protected whistleblowers and come forward if you can. I know it's not easy. I know it's easy for me to say that sitting here, but if you can, do it, because we got to hold these people accountable. They're running wild. They're completely out of control. And they own both parties and most of the courts and the media, so they get favorable coverage. The media isn't screaming from the mountaintops about locking these people up. I'm telling you, if the January 6th people went to seize the Capitol, to arrest and demand all these bankers went to jail, I would have been down with that. You show up with Nazi paraphernalia. No, I'm not down with that. Now you look like Germany in the early 1930s. Wake up to who the real enemy is. It's Wall Street. It's not this party or that party. They're just puppets of the real people that control this country, which is the billionaires and the big corporations and the banks. So wake up to that. Follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth, shave your knuckles for justice. Ba-boom. Hey, everybody, it's Graham Elwood. We are going on the road, Ron Placone and I, in September and October. Check grahamelwood.com for tour dates, probably coming to a city near you. A lot of these shows have sold out in the past. We haven't been on the road in a year and a half because of the pandemic. Come out and join us. The post-pandemic comedy tour. Go to grahamelwood.com for tickets. New cities being announced every day. Join us and support what we do at patreon.com/Graham Elwood and rockfin.com/Graham Elwood. Blockchain cryptocurrency platform. Thank you. You're making Gotham great again. Boom.